Bitcoin is close to becoming worthless.
Let's go. Now, what's the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's like rat poison.
Yeah. Oh,
The greatest scam in history.
let's get it.
Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
Yeah.
Alright, you ungovernable misfits. I'm your host, Max. Everybody knows that Bitcoin is useless, worthless, and doomed to fail. But what if everyone's wrong? What if it's the system that is doomed to fail? Join me as I speak to some of the brightest people in the space and slither to the deepest, darkest depths of the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Today's episode is with Dragon. I always love catching up with him. He is the organiser for Bitcoin Beach Retreat and he absolutely smashed it this year. In this episode we talk about the Bitcoin circular economy, KYC versus non-KYC, and $250 million buried deep in a landfill site in Welsh Wales. Before we start, I want to say thank you to everyone who's been supporting the show. It really is appreciated, and everyone who's been streaming sats, sending messages, giving feedback, sharing the show with friends, and everything else you've been doing is amazing. If you're not already using Podcasting 2.0, I suggest you give it a try. You can use Fountain or Breeze, and if anyone has any questions on setting this up, I'd be happy to help. The reason I like Podcasting 2.0 so much is I don't want this show to start taking on shitty sponsors, diluting the signal, and going against what I think this movement is about. And what I think this movement is about, or certainly for me, is being able to speak truth and it not to ever be filtered. I want to thank my anonymous sponsor for allowing me this time every episode to talk about Podcasting 2.0. They have sponsored this show for 6 months, allowing me to talk to you guys about why it's so important, allowing me some breathing room and to continue this show. So to whoever you are, just know that it is very much appreciated. I'd also like to thank Foundation Devices, firstly for sponsoring the show. Secondly, for putting out such incredible hardware. This is the hardware I suggest for all my friends and family now. It is fully open source, the design is absolutely beautiful, and their team is amazing. Not only have they been sponsoring this show, they are also putting out 2 incredible prizes for the Bitcoin mining month. It is coming up next month and 2 Foundation Devices passports are going up for grabs. During the mining month, I will be releasing more info on how and when you can win these incredible devices. We will also be having Lily and Bitcoin Q&A joining us for the mining month. They will be talking about how to secure your precious KYC-free sats from your home mining, and we'll be discussing the Foundation Devices passport as well. If you haven't already checked one of these out, you need to go to foundationdevices.com, and if you just decide you want to buy one anyway, you can use the code BITBYBIT and you'll get $10 off your purchase, or maybe you want to hold out and see if you can win one of these. Either way, if you have any questions, just reach out and I will give you all the trade-offs, be as honest as possible, and talk you through your purchase. And finally, Fast Bitcoins. Fast Bitcoins have been sponsoring this show for over 6 months now. They are a Bitcoin only exchange. Dragon actually works for them, but do not hold that against them. They're sponsoring this show despite me constantly bashing KYC services. I've asked them before why the hell they want to sponsor this show with the content that I put out there, but they are proper Bitcoiners and they want this type of content out there, and they want the trade-offs to be clear, and they want people to understand, and they want people to hold their own keys. So for anyone who's listening and they don't want to take my advice and they don't want no KYC, then I really can only suggest these guys. They don't want you to have your sats on exchange with them. They only support Bitcoin, and they are a proper team. They're based in the Isle of Man, and they are expanding at a rapid rate. If you're listening and you're still unsure of what to do and whether to go to them, you can reach out to me and I'll be open and honest about the trade-offs. Check them out at fastbitcoins.com and enjoy the show. Morning, mate. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad. Sorry about that. I plugged them in, forgot to turn the switch on. Classic sort of retard stuff there.
Standard, isn't it, mate?
Yeah.
I would have been a bit disappointed, to be honest, if something hadn't fucked up.
Yeah. If things went smoothly, you know there's a problem. You know someone's got a gun to my head or something.
Exactly. You've been compromised, man. If it goes perfectly, I'm just like logging out.
So how are things?
Not too bad, mate. It's been a hot weekend, isn't it? Jesus fucking Christ! Like that was mental. I think it was like 31 degrees in my house this weekend. Like I can't remember it being quite that hot in this country before. But
were you working from home or
on the weekend? Not so much, mate. I was just around
chilling,
my box, trying to keep cool and trying to not overheat. Luckily, I didn't have much to do. I think it's been random since the beach retreat. In the weekends leading up to that and into the evenings, you're always doing some random shit. All the time, there's just something that you can always be doing. So for the past few weekends, it's been quite nice not to have anything to do, to just be able to chill out a bit.
Yeah, you were very, very busy on the beach retreat. I kept thinking, I'm going to get a little chance to have a sit and chat away, and then suddenly you'd be flying off somewhere to fix something else or do something. So it didn't seem like it was the most relaxing time for you, but it was excellent for everyone else.
Yeah, sorry, what it wasn't. It genuinely is work. It sounds a bit random, but my background's event management, so I've worked at plenty of events, and you just get into a mode. It's on you or on the team to make sure everything happens. So you've only got one shot at it, so you've got to put your work mind on and just get cracking. So you don't get quite as much out of it as everyone else who's coming there and just chilling. So that's kind of probably the thing I learned most this year. I learned a little bit last year, but this year, because it got a bit bigger, I think I'm going to try and get a bit more help. I don't know if it's help. I'd rather pass things over to people that can be trusted to just take on some kind of responsibility, whatever that is, to make the event better, to add something on, as opposed to like one person trying to orchestrate all the different things. I'd like to like parcel that out, and some of that started to happen this year just naturally, which is, I think, a good thing for the event. Just let things go where they go naturally, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I noticed the change in, well, firstly, I think you had probably 2-3 times more people, and then secondly, you'd put on the food as well, so like the trucks coming and doing the pizza and different things like that, which we didn't have before. So all of these things, I imagine, need a lot of planning and messing around with.
Yeah, and it's like same with any event. If you turn up to an event, most people will go, "Oh yeah, I could organise this." You know, it doesn't look like anything. Oh, there's a marquee, there's some barbecues or whatever, there's a few drinks. It doesn't ever seem like a lot, but any event manager will tell you it's probably like 10 times the amount of work you think goes into an event when you attend one than actually does. So it's worth it in the end, you know.
And did Bitcoin pull you out of events management then? Is that why you ended up with Fast Bitcoins and away from it?
Yeah, that is a bit of a strange one, because my background's events, and I think up to about 2010 I was employed, and then I went freelance, self-employed after that, which probably wasn't the best idea in the world, because I'm not a good salesman. I find selling myself quite uncomfortable. And I've worked with salespeople in the past, and they're a certain breed of people. They're very good and they're very great to have on your side, but it's not a skill I've got. So that I never, I did my own events and things like that. I worked for other people over the years. And then I started a bit of a little side hustle with, I I'm embarrassed to say it, to be honest, but it is my path to Bitcoin, was with binary trading. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's the same as normal trading, but it's literally, win or lose. You know, you trade for like 5 minutes or 60 seconds sometimes. Just saying the price of, GBP, JPY will be up in 60 seconds.
Right.
And that was kind of like my introduction to trading, and I love it. I like maths and things like that. So that was kind of like my introduction to trading. And one of the odd things on the platform was, on binary trading, you can earn like 90% if you get the call right on the foreign exchange pairs. And then probably about a year into doing it, this one popped up, and it was Bitcoin. And it was really random because you could only get 50% profitability on if you were trading Bitcoin, which was really odd to me. And then obviously I never bothered, because what's the point trading something for 50% when you can trade something for 90%? But the random thing about it was all of FX pairs and trading all stopped at like 5-6 o'clock on a Friday. But you would see the only thing you could trade out of hours and on the weekend would be Bitcoin. So that was kind of one of the first things. Is like, this is a bit different. Why is the rest of the financial world like shut down, but Bitcoin just sort of keeps on going? And I'll put a warning in you, like, people don't go near binary trading. It's a zero-sum game. It is a waste of time. If you want to be a trader, trade, but don't do binary trading. It's kind of nonsense, and there's just so many rip-offs in that market. And it was, again, it's embarrassing to say it, but during that time I joined various groups for signals and stuff like this. We all know what this is like in the Bitcoin world and the crypto world. It's there in the FX world. That's where it came from. And in those, someone put me on to a Telegram bot that would trade Bitcoin for you, and like every day you'd get a little bit of extra Bitcoin. So that was my first reason to ever buy any. So I bought a little bit from Coinbase. Took me about a month to get through their KYC checks. It was an absolute ball ache and a pain in the ass. And then I put it on a high-up on Telegram. It was only like 25 quid, and then I lost it all. So they rug pulled me. That was genuinely my first introduction to Bitcoin. The first Bitcoin I bought got rug pulled.
Quality. When was this?
That would have been like 2007 or 2017. It was a good learning lesson, if you know what I mean. And getting over that sort of hill of buying Bitcoin, and it kind of got to the state. I did well in binary trading because I came back out with all my clothes on. I didn't lose my shirt, so
Wow.
whatever. Which was great, but I wasted like 9 months of my life trading binary options and going up, down, and eventually I just pulled the plug and said, "Sod this for a game of cards. There's just no point." And that's when I thought, well, the price of Bitcoin is just always going up. Like, and this was in summer 2017.
Yeah.
It's always going up. So surely it's easier to just trade Bitcoin. Just buy Bitcoin, wait for the price to go up, wait for a dip, sell it. Wait for it to go up, sell it, dip, buy it, and just keep doing that. And that is what got me into Bitcoin. But I made the mistake of, although it could have been a whole lot worse, I made the mistake of taking all my money out of binary trading, which is pretty much the same amount I put in there, putting that into Bitcoin and crypto. Unfortunately, again, more embarrassment. But the bit where I say I didn't do as bad as I could, I did somehow see the value of Bitcoin, and put like 50% of my money into Bitcoin and split the other 50% up among various shit coins. And then, as everyone did in the 17 bull run, traded, thought I was a king. Kept making the mistake of trading altcoins to make more altcoins, sometimes more Bitcoin, but generally more altcoins. And then we all got rugged in that bear market, didn't we? And some people did horrendously in that. I don't know how they managed to work through that bull run where they ended up with like 90% drawdown. And I've looked back at how I did over the time, and luckily I never went below what I originally put in. So fair play to the people who went below what they put in and still hung around and became Bitcoiners. I had a slightly easier ride, although it was still horrendously painful seeing how much money or Bitcoin you've lost. Like,
yeah, it's never nice. Even now, like when you get to a certain stage where you're like, I'm comfortable with this, I'm holding for a long time, like, and there's more to this than money. It's still like, yeah, this doesn't look as nice as it did a year ago. Like, you've still got that like number in your head where you're like, yeah, I'm a lot poorer than I was. And it never feels good. No matter what people say, I don't think anyone has zero effect.
Yeah, and randomly, during the time before I went full on down the rabbit hole, I concentrated on what I'd lost fiat terms, so what my portfolio was worth at the absolute top. But as time's gone on, the bit that really bugs me, and the number I've got in my head, is the Bitcoin value of what I owned at the time, and I don't think
Mhm.
I'll ever get back to that. Which is really cutting. Do you know what I mean? I could have ended up with more Bitcoin like in the first few months of arriving if I'd been able to predict the future like Mystic Meg, and done that. So it's weird now. I'm not. It is more about not not fully one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin, but that's the number I would love to get back to in my head. Is the most amount of Bitcoin I ever could have owned in my life that I fucked up and didn't realize the full value of it and how lucky I was at that time. To then watch it dwindle down. But you realign and you look at what I could have bought if I'd gone 100% Bitcoin at the start, and I'm beyond that now. So I've carried on stacking and various other things. So I'm back to where I could have been if I'd been right at the start, and not messed with altcoins and things like that. So that's the aim now. I don't mess around with the shit coins. It's all about Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's an expensive lesson, but it's like one that you have to learn. Everyone learns it in some way, and I think the lesson is you don't know what Bitcoin's going to do. Don't fuck around. Don't think you're smart because you're not. And that's basically the lesson everyone has to learn at some point, whether it bites you at the beginning or bites you at the end. Mine bit me like immediately, so I was quite lucky. Like, because I came in, well, I started buying, which was like after about a 20% dip, I think it was, from the top in 2017. And obviously, not knowing fuck all about these markets, I was like, oh, that's good. That's a 20% drop. And everyone's telling me this thing just keeps going up. So that's amazing. I'll start piling in here. And then it dropped again. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll try and find some more down the back of the sofa. And then it dropped again. And I was like, oh, I'll try selling some shit so that I can buy some more. And I just had that for like 2 fucking years of just pain.
So you're that example. You're the person who generally had a drawdown on your fiat, what you put in then.
Oh yeah, massively. Like like 80% or more on the altcoins, obviously, that I bought. I just saw pain. All I did is saw pain. I think there was one little bit of relief, like for a month, where things pumped a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, I've only lost 70%."
That's when you know things are bad, aren't you? Well, it's only 70 down. It's better than 90.
Yeah, exactly. I am actually really happy that happened, because otherwise, like times like now, if all I'd seen is the good times, then I'd be shitting myself. Whereas like now I'm like, no, this feels like home. Pain. This is what I like.
You just get numb to it, and it's like it doesn't matter what the price goes. I just kind of you'd be lying if I see a massive dump that I'm not like, oh shit. But really randomly, I get I'm unsure at the moment. I think I get a slightly worse feeling when Bitcoin pumps, and I can't quite explain it. It's that, oh shit, I should have bought some more. Oh shit, what's going to happen now? It is a bit of that, but I don't know. I suppose the higher you push up, the further you can fall back down. I don't know what it is, but I've only noticed in the sort of the past 2 years is when it starts going up, I start feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Going down, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm used to this. I can deal with this. Like, you just ignore it and just crack on building. But it's like when it goes up, it's like, oh shit might change now. It might have an effect on your life or something like that. But going down, you've already written it off or whatever. You just carry on regardless, don't you? But fair play to you for like hanging on. Like I said, the people who hung on when they genuinely drew down a lot, and I don't know. I can't tell if I would have been here if I drew down 80% on what I put in. I might have thrown the towel in. I hope I wouldn't have. But same as you, like that 2018 was then when I decided to create my website about Bitcoin, to just try and advise people and things like that and help people. And it was doing that sort of sent me down the rabbit hole. And yeah, like you, I think if we'd just gone bullish for like 5 years and just gone on a bull run, I probably would have never taken that time. So I do kind of like the built-in pain that Bitcoin has, because it does wash out the sector, if you want to call it that, of people who aren't interested, and those that like a bit of pain hang around, learn more, and become Bitcoiners.
Yeah, definitely. And so was this the same website that I'm on now, which is dragonbitcoin.co.uk? Was that the one that you first set up?
Yeah, and like I'll apologize in case anyone goes there. I did that in like 2018, so like I don't think DeFi is even mentioned on there or NFTs, which is quite telling. And I think even what was one part? I think that when I wrote it, there was like 1,500 to 2,000 altcoins, and I think we're on like 20,000 now.
Yeah.
Which is insane. So yeah, I think when you write a website and you're professing to like know something can help people, it forces you to make sure you're putting the correct information on there. But I'm sure it is a little bit out of date. But again, I don't think anyone goes to the website, so I don't really care. I'm not selling anything, if you know what I mean.
Well, in a way, it's not outdated, because all the altcoins and all the bullshit you could have put on there are all fucked anyway and useless. So actually, you've done well, I'm probably the first person that's come onto this website this month, but you might get a few after people listen to this now. So
don't bother. If people listen to your podcast, they'll find better information somewhere else. This is aimed at someone who's like, what's Bitcoin? And I don't think your podcast listeners are at that level, mate. Thankfully.
And then you've got the local events and things like that. So you also got the meetup, Bitcoin Wales, is that right?
Yeah, that's not. I'm not definitely not going to take credit for that. The guy who started that, fair play to him, started it in 2013. And to give you some idea of where I was then, I think I looked into Bitcoin in like 2014 and thought, this looks fun. I'll buy some. Shit, that's too complicated. Move on, carry on with your life, and just completely ignored it. So I think I went to so we've got Bitcoin Wales. He started back in 2013, and I went to my first meetup. I think it was in November 17. And like I told you, I hate sales. I'm not that type of person. I'm not socially awkward. I'll talk to anyone. That doesn't really bother me. But if you put me in a situation where it's like, this is networking, at the time I found that like really uncomfortable. I take no pleasure. Like for me, networking would be something your business sends you on that you don't really want to do, if you know what I mean. And to me, that's kind of what it felt like a meetup was. So I literally walked into the building, saw a few people, turned around and walked out and went home. I'm embarrassed about it, to be honest, but I was just like, oh, fuck this. I don't know anyone, don't really enjoy networking. This isn't for me. And I walked out. And then randomly, one of the other members got in touch with me, because I was really active on Twitter at the time, and said the organizer, do you want to meet up and have a cuppa? So I went and had a cup of tea with him, and that was literally it. It's like, as soon as I know someone in there, it's like, fine. So I went to the next meetup, and then, just as I sadly do, started to get more involved. We started organizing like 2 monthly events over the next couple of years. So we do a presentation every month and a meet up in a pub every month. And they were great. It's really good doing those. It's hard work. It's all organic grassroots group, no budget. We're always struggling to try and find presenters, but we've got a good sort of group of people who keep coming. And it's important to have something for people who are new to Bitcoin to come to. But then, what was it? Like years have blended into each other. But was it like February, March 2020? COVID came.
Yeah, it was about then.
And that literally put the kibosh on everything, didn't it? So we've had no events pretty much throughout most of that. And we started coming back this year. I think we had Neil Woodfine from Unchained Capital come and do a talk for us.
Very dangerous driver, that man.
Yeah, I wouldn't lend him your vehicle, that's for sure. Like,
no.
If you want it all back in one piece, like.
Yeah, I turned up and there's this beautiful new VW camper, and I was like, oh, fucking hell, that's lovely. And then I saw all the wheels were just fucked. The thing's basically on fire, just like an absolute mess. And there's Neil next to it, like, yes, this is me.
Fair play to him. Like he definitely rolled up in memorable circumstances. Like, I feel sorry, fair play. Like, it sucks when you go to something and it starts off shit. Do you know what I mean? When you've driven for hours and you're literally 2 meters away from where you're going and you fuck it up. But yeah, that at least he kept positive for the rest of the event and did a fantastic talk that I know a lot of people appreciated. So at least he turned it around, and I hope he enjoyed it. I don't think he was the only one. I think other people had some wheel incidents down there as well.
Yeah, well, it was a bit rocky. We were taking it as slow as possible, but
you came in a different way. It wasn't rocky. I had a massive vehicle, and it was quite easy to not drive into things. but a few people decided they didn't want to go with that, so drove into things on the way in, like just to announce they've arrived.
Yeah, I'm here, flames. Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was a good talk. Actually, he did. I couldn't participate, so it was like everyone was scanning the QR codes and setting up multi-sig and doing all. I think it was on Blue Wallet they were doing it. I can't remember now off the top of my head. But my camera on my phone was so shit it couldn't even scan the fucking QR code.
Oh, Jesus.
That's proper low time preference stuff. I'd brought my shitty old phone and fucking work.
Too much OPSEC, Max. But it was it was cool as to see. I think that was one of the cooler talks to see because everyone was like working together to set up these multi-sigs. I only saw the start of it because I had other things going on afterwards that I had to get ready for, so I kind of missed out on it. But it looked really good. Like it's actually, that's probably one of the ones I regret because I would have liked to have done that. We've had issues of trying to set up multi-sig for Bitcoin Wales, so the fact he got like people to sit there, 3 of them do it, and like within an hour they're all done and sorted and everyone's tested it, was like, yeah, that's something I should have would have liked to attend.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that's the way forward. It's getting easier and easier to set up. I quite like this 2 of 3 setup. I think it's quite nice. Like some of the more complex stuff, I'm like, I'm not sure that's really necessary. I mean, your security can be so good with single sig anyway, but if you want to step things up and do the 2 of 3, it does seem with things like Sparrow and Spectre and Blue Wallet and the hardware getting better and Seed Signer and some of these other things, it's like it seems like this is probably going to be the standard going forward.
Yeah, it could be. Like you said, I think single sig's fine. You know, it all depends on what you're doing and things like that. The first time we've needed one as a meetup group, we had a donation, so it made sense to do it that way. As it's worked out, we know the person who's got our donation, so we've ended up not doing a multi-sig, and he just gives us the Bitcoin every time we need it. Yeah. So, because it was so, yeah, don't trust, verify, but yeah, we trust on that one because we know him. So, it worked out pretty well. But yeah, with the meetups, we're trying to get back into them. We had the guy James Howells who lost 8,000 Bitcoin in the Newport landfill join us, I think, last Wednesday night to do his talk, and that was pretty fascinating, to be honest with you, mate. I was kind of mind blown at some of the things he was saying. Like,
oh my god. Is it true that he's still digging and still trying to find it?
No, he's got a whole... So the council won't speak to him. He's now got another plan backed by VCs and experts of, land reclamation, AI, and all these analysis things to like go in and do it. So he's got a plan, a better plan than he's ever had before, and it's all fully funded with, insurance money in case they fuck the place up. But the problem he's got is Newport Council won't speak to him. There's a possible other thing he did reveal. It's not really public at the moment as to one of the reasons why the council won't speak to him. There could be some dodgy dealings in history that could be dug up in that landfill. But generally speaking, ultimately, I think it boils down to civil servants, councils are utterly risk averse, and at the end of the day, they do not give 2 shits about anybody. They don't. They don't give a shit about you. So I think it comes down to what price point is going to force their hand. There's like £250 million or dollars, I think dollars, sat in there at the moment. So if Bitcoin quadruples, that's $1 billion. Of a council with a £300 million a year budget. At what point can they stop saying we won't have a conversation with you, James? I think that's the bad bit. At the end of the day, the civil servants have a conversation with him. It's not like someone's lost their laptop. It's like someone's lost potentially $250 million. And you can get some of this if you like, you've got you're a stakeholder in this. You've got the land. So me being me, I'm just mercenary about it. I've told him the best thing you can do is to just bribe the people of Newport.
Oh
the
yeah, well it's
councillors.
always the best way.
Yeah, turn to money. He's doing some great things. He's trying to give some to charity if he gets it, and £50 for everyone in Newport and things like that. But I just think just be mercenary, be brutal. You've got 8,000 bitcoins there. If it takes 6,000 bitcoin given to the people of Newport to get them to start lobbying their councillors and also voting for the councillor that says I will try and dig it up, I think that's your best chance. And so what? You give away 6,000 of your 8,000 bitcoin. If you get $1 million or $2 million out of it, your life's changed.
Carrot or stick approach. First blackmail them and threaten them, and then if that doesn't work, or is it the other way around? Maybe be nice first and then threaten and blackmail.
Yeah, I go with nice first, and he's done that, but he's, he lost this and realised in 2014, so what's that, like 8-9 years now? And, he's even got the guy who used to run the tip on his team called Gwyn, who's responsible for throwing his laptop in the tip, effectively. But even him, I think everyone in the council's word went out last week. No one in the council's allowed to speak to Gwyn. They're just... Yeah, you can manage to do that, but you can't manage to have a meeting with someone,
Yeah.
So I think turn it on them. What do they all want? They all want their position of power. So threaten the removal of that position of power, and the only people that can do that are the citizens through their voting. So I've even suggested to him just go on as a one, like what's it called, a one topic candidate yourself. I elect me to be leader of Newport on the council. I will do only one thing: try and find that $1 billion that's in the landfill, and I'm going to give you all like $5,000 if I find it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. My feeling is they either have something, like you said, that they really don't want dug up, so it won't be, or even if they were to find it, it's probably fucked anyway, because presumably it's on a hard drive which has been under there for however many years, and my guess is that's probably fucked. And also, being selfish, I'm sure he's a lovely guy, and I'm sure all the people in Newport would love a few grand, but kind of hope it doesn't get dug up, because pour one out for the homies and let those coins just be gone.
He has taken the loss, that's for sure. But no, randomly, he's got the people on who recovered the hard drives from, was it the Challenger space disaster? The one where the thing broke up in the atmosphere and came down to Earth in pieces. They recovered data out of that. And as far as they're concerned, it's basically that circular wafer in the hard drive. Doesn't matter what's happened to the rest of the hard drive, as long as that circular wafer hasn't been cracked or smashed. As far as they're concerned, the data recovery experts, there's a very high probability it's still there, because it probably hasn't been crushed. It's in a box that's pretty solid, you know what I mean, a hard drive enclosure. No, I would say odds are reasonably good that hard drive's still in there. And the other random thing that he said, it's not like they're trying to I think it's like a 20 gig hard drive. It's not like they're trying to pull 20 gigs worth of data off it. This is just like a wallet file. And it's in theory, it should just be one tiny spot on that wafer or whatever it's called, that they can pull it off, which increases the chances again. If you're trying to pull 20 gig off a potentially damaged one, you might miss some of it and you can't recover it all. But this is just a very small file on a 20 gig hard drive, so that shouldn't be an issue. Whether or not they do it, pass. I think it all comes down to the price of Bitcoin. That will be the driver, and hoping that the price pushes up enough so that pressure pushes it up enough so they can try and find it before 20 years and that wafer has deteriorated beyond a point of it being recoverable, which I'm sure can happen at some point. But no, I think 10-20 years it's still recoverable. But one of the other, and it blows my mind to think about it, but this guy was on his mining node, he had 4 connections, I think. And he was really confused because he knows Bitcoin can connect to more peers than that. So he was testing all his ports, port forwarding and everything like that. And couldn't solve it, and it was only after he realised there were only 4 people mining Bitcoin.
Oh,
That's when it hits you. You're like, holy shit! So you're talking Satoshi, Hal, someone called Drew, I think, and another unknown, and those were the people he was, in theory, he was connected to at that time, because he was mining like 2 or 3 months after the white paper was put out, and he mined for about 3 months, and he was just mining at night, work on his computer the day, switch it to mining at night, and then I think his missus got pissed off with the noise of the laptop at night, so he had to stop doing it. And then it was only years later he'd realised that the drive had gone. But to understand a little bit, the guy's a network engineer, and like so is someone in my family, and they generally have computer crap lying around their desk everywhere, and they try and clean up and stuff like that. So I can kind of understand how he did it. But yeah, it blew my mind. There's not many. How many people in this world can say with some kind of level of certainty that they were connected to Satoshi's node?
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know it was that early, to be fair.
It's only when I've started, like, because none of that gets covered in the newspaper reports and things, because normies aren't interested in that. That's not really that exciting. But to me, I was like, holy shit, damn. So he's like, no, on that hard drive, there should be a list of the IP addresses in a folder as well for those nodes, which he thought was quite interesting, because in theory you got Satoshi's IP, but I wouldn't have thought for a second that IP is going to actually help in ID in Satoshi. I'm sure he's figured that, or they figured that out.
That's the one place he's tripped up. He's gone, fuck, I forgot to run a VPN.
Perhaps Satoshi is bribing Newport Council, don't answer the phones, James's phone calls. He literally got my address in that landfill, like.
Or actually it's James who secretly is stopping it as well, because he buried his missus under there after she stopped him mining.
It could well be, like, but yeah, amazing story. I hope we hear some more from him in the future about retrieving that, but we'll just have to see. But yeah, mind blowing that was in Wales as a young guy at such an early age, experimenting, playing with Bitcoin.
Biggest thing to ever happen in Wales, I think.
But historic. Let's fast forward 100 years, mate. Who knows? It genuinely could be, because not a lot else happens down here. To be fair,
Bitcoin beach retreat.
Well, yeah, I suppose. But we're only in year 2 of that, so
it's up there, isn't it?
Potentially. After this year, I think it was with the weather. I think we had the hottest day ever recorded in Wales on our last day there. Which was pretty mad, but it's made me scared because we were lucky last year with the weather.
Yeah,
great, even better weather this year.
On the last day, it wasn't, because I wasn't kite surfing. I was standing on the beach watching OpenOM's kite surfing. It was fucking miserable and pissing with rain.
What, last year?
Yeah.
Okay, I've blocked that from my memory, I think.
It was pissing with rain. He was like, yeah, I'm going to go out kite surfing. I was like, you're a fucking lunatic, mate. But I'll watch.
I'll watch you die. Like, I don't mind. Like,
yeah, it was pretty miserable. And then, yeah, trying to get the tents down and stuff. And it was just, everything was soaked. And yeah, but the rest of the time was really good. It was just that last day.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember. We all kind of like bailed quite quickly on that Sunday morning because it was like everyone's got a long drive home.
Yeah, we were the last people there. It was me, OpenOMs, and Self-Banked. Everyone else had fucked off, and we were just there lurking.
That's why, like, it did. I can't remember it raining. I think you guys got the rain. I don't think most of us. Yeah. I think that teaches you for hanging around, mate. should have bailed and started going home, like.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. The rest of it was amazing. The weather. I was then having a trailer lesson from Duan on the last day. So because when I arrived, he was like, "You looked so fucking stressed. Like, honestly, I felt sorry for you." And I was like, to be honest, I was pretty stressed. He's like, "Right, I'm going to teach you. Do you want to have a little lesson?" And he took like an hour and a half out of his day to get me round and round that really tight bit at the front where the office was. Keep going round there, and
you were driving around that with your vehicle and what you were towing.
Yeah.
Jesus, mate, I'm impressed, Max.
Yeah, well, he said, so was I. And then he said, yeah, normally, you wouldn't be doing that after, for a few weeks, but I'll just throw you in at the deep end. And then if you can get around that, you can get around anything. And I was like, Okay, fair enough. Well, I feel a bit more comfortable going back now. So,
Oh yeah, if you can drive around that little turning circle, mate, I generally wouldn't. Like, I drove a camper van and I avoided driving around that turning circle. So yours is like probably half an extra length, and it's got the pin in the middle or articulated.
25 foot at the back.
Sod that for a laugh.
Yeah, it was very tight, but yeah, kind of him to help me. But it was fucking stinking hot when we were doing it. What's your plans for the next one? I mean, obviously it's started to ramp up quite a lot this year. It was great the year before, but really, I think this was sort of the start of something bigger, and everyone that I've spoken to anyway really enjoyed it. So are you sort of got any thoughts for next year or any plans that you're thinking of outside of hopefully being able to chill a little bit more?
Not so much. Like at the end of every event, we do the questionnaire to see what people thought, to try and get some feedback, which is really important. So we've learned some things about that, like people are up for doing a bit more non-Bitcoin related activities and things like that. But no, at the moment the event's not happening next year. And I'm only saying that because we haven't got any dates booked in. Until you've got dates booked in and you've ticked a few boxes, then it's not happening. At the moment, I'm up for doing it again. I need to have a chat with our friend at the site and just see what their thoughts are on it. And you know what the site's like. It can handle far more people than we rock up with, but there's that balance of when does it get too big. And I think we're probably on it. I don't think we need more than like 120 people there. I think that gives you, there's enough people to talk to. You're not getting an opportunity to speak to people that you want to and things like that. So, and most events, particularly, they'll generally be profit making, and the idea will always be to maximize it. But this event isn't about profit. It doesn't make any money. All the money gets spent on the event. I don't make any money from it. I just give up my time to organize it. So we it's not like we're under any pressure to make money. I don't see the beach retreat as a vehicle to try and make money. That doesn't mean it never will be. Never say never, but it's certainly not part of a plan at the moment. And it becomes a different event when you've got to make money. I think we'll avoid that. And from my experience in events, the best thing you can ever really do is have slow organic growth, and that it fits in with Bitcoin being low time preference as well. I'm pretty sure we could like get a huge sponsor and try and get like 500 people up there and have a little mini Bitcoin festival or something like that next year. Don't necessarily know that the site would be up for that or could handle that infrastructure wise. It might freak a lot of people out, but it would be a different type of event. You could do that anyway, really. I think this one needs to stay as what it is and just slowly grow up to whatever a good capacity is, and then hold it there. And then in theory, what will happen is we'll get rid of the tickets quicker as more people want the tickets, and hopefully we'll get a better, I was going to say a better quality of Bitcoin. Like the quality of Bitcoiners we've had over the past 2 years has kind of blown my mind. We organize this and just think Bitcoin is going to turn up, but to think that people who are very active, even including yourself, with your pod,
Probably mainly me.
Mainly you.
Yeah.
OpenOms does his little bits to help Bitcoin, and just throw him in there, like just keep him happy because I want him to come next year. But like generally speaking, I think that's the thing, is just slowly grow, let it be organic, and see where it takes us. I'm not a fan of organizing by committee. That's just because of my events background. It's not the greatest way, but I think there's perhaps some kind of like hybrid where there's a few people that are perhaps want to be involved a bit more and take on some organization before the event. And I think that's probably the best way to grow it. Just let it grow naturally, see what happens. Don't try and make money out of it, and cross our fingers for good weather.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. Like, it's the reason I came back was that it did feel a little bit more, I don't know, it just felt, when I go to conferences, and I don't go to many, or even like the developer conferences and stuff like that, the feeling I get a bit of anxiety. I don't particularly like speaking to too many people at the same time. Like one-on-one is fine, a couple of people fine. Much more than that, I'm like, oh, I don't like this. And when I go in, it's like bright lights, people walking around with name badges. It's all very structured. and I don't know. It actually, I don't enjoy that experience. I find it a bit. I don't know. I sometimes feel like I just want to walk straight out when I go into one, and it's not a reflection on the people who are organising it or the speakers or anything like that. Like, sometimes these things are amazing. It's just, for me, I'm like, oh, I don't really like this. Whereas when you're outside in the fresh air and there's loads of space around and you're in natural light and you've got the sea there, it just instantly drops my level of anxiety. And I feel like the quality of the conversations is way better because people are just that bit more relaxed. There's none of that networking feel like you can get sometimes. Like, sometimes you have a conversation and or maybe they want something from me, or they want something from the person next to me, and you can sort of feel it. You can sort of feel there's a bit of digging there. Whereas I've never felt that when I'm in Wales. I've just felt like whoever it is I'm chatting to is just interested in the conversation. And I guess that's why you're saying about you don't want it too big, because otherwise maybe that changes.
Yeah, there'd be potentially too. It's nice to walk around. And it's like, I might not know you, but I've seen you twice already, and I kind of Max or something. You kind of
Yeah.
by the end of the weekend you recognize everyone, yeah, and you will get past a certain number of people where you can't kind of do that. But I'm kind of with you. Like, conferences are great. We're really lucky. We've got some like the Honey Badger, Bitcoin Miami, Advancing Bitcoin in the UK, and they're great events. And go into not any of those for different reasons, but go into like I think BitBrum a few years ago in Birmingham, and
Mm-hmm.
CoinFest a couple of times up in Manchester, and the meetups, is that I find I enjoy the times when people aren't presenting. Is like in the bar or outside having a cig or
Yeah.
whatever. That's where I get the most value at these, because I can stand there and get to know you, Max, and we can find out that we've got a couple of things in common. And then when I'm speaking to you on Twitter 3 weeks later, it's not a non-avi that I'm talking to. It's like, I
Mm-hmm.
know this person, and I got to kind of read on whether they're a con artist or someone that I want
Yeah.
to have some kind of friendship or relationship to. So, like, that's the best bit about the conferences, I think. And that was kind of there was a few things that sort of motivated me to start the beach retreat, but that was one of them. And I guess it's that, yeah, I just find it a bit nicer in the more relaxed times when you've got nothing to do. And at the beach retreat is kind of even better. So at a conference, it's whatever, 9 till 5, and there might be something going on in the evening, but it's pretty structured. You have an hour lunch or something like that, and you meet. But at the beach retreat, there's a few things on during the day, but you can talk to people at any time of day or night. And it's cool when the way I parked my camper van this year, it's like you roll over and pull up the blind and you look down and you can see like 20 of the Bitcoiners being led down the beach to do a Wim Hof cold water thing at like
Yeah.
9 o'clock in the morning. And I'm sat in my bed going, oh shit, man, I should have got up and gone down to that. That looks good. And it's like, it's just stuff like that. You just won't have happen at a conference. But it's not to take anything away from the conferences. They are important, but I think I would rather go to an event like this. And randomly, I don't know what it's called. I think Bitcoin Citadel just happened, I believe, over in Switzerland. And I'm seeing some cool ideas they've got there. And I would describe that as, it looks like kind of like a beach retreat, but on steroids.
Okay.
There's obviously quite a fair bit more money involved and things like that, but kind of like the same philosophy. Everyone's camping in a field and they're there for a few days, and I think there might be more talks than what we do, but yeah, I hope we see more of these types of events where people can just go and chill out, relax, and meet other Bitcoiners, because I think the network is probably the thing most of us can do to help Bitcoin. Most of us can't develop or necessarily start businesses and so on and so forth, but we can strengthen the social network part of
Mm.
Bitcoin quite easily. And the thing that I've noticed for 2 years now doing this event is that Bitcoiners are generally sound. Um,
Yeah.
I've not can't remember anyone at any of the events where I'm like, shit, man, I do not want to talk to you. I wish you weren't here. Everyone's been sound, and actually, one of the funniest ones I think was last year because I hadn't met MTC before, only on Twitter, and he's quite toxic on Twitter. um, and he's like booked on. It's like, okay, this is going to be fun. And then you meet him; he's the nicest guy. And it's like, shit, man. It's like, don't judge people by Twitter. We all sort of we all have our ways of being online, and I love his way. I love seeing the shit he gives people. He does it in his very
so
own way.
good.
But you'd think meeting him, man, that guy's going to be like, I don't know, toxic or hard work or something. No, lovely guy, absolutely sound does. And that's what I've experienced with most Bitcoiners. So I don't think anyone listening to your pod will believe all this toxic maxi bullshit that seems to have taken off over the past 2 or 3 months. But it is absolute bullshit. Even people you would call toxic in Bitcoin, like, they're not toxic people. They're toxic towards shitcoiners. They've seen it, done it, and they're fed up with it, and they're sick to the back teeth of it. And that does make people understandably toxic. I am very toxic towards the Bitcoin SV people. So we all have our own little things that we like to go after. But yeah, I think that's the thing I'd encourage everyone is, like, do not be put off by Bitcoiners. Go out and meet them. Go to a meetup. And you'll be very surprised of things that come of it. Like the amount of, I think, just last year, the amount of people who got something very beneficial from the meetup, it like surprised me towards the end of the year. I won't say who it was, but a couple of people did these, I think for their works, these end of year surveys where you've got to evaluate how your year's gone, like what were your good bits, what were your bad bits, and like both of them said the beach retreat popped up very regularly on the positive side of things. So it's like, shit, man, that's pretty cool. I never expected that it would be a highlight of people's year sort of thing. Although, to put it into context, this was when COVID lockdowns were on, so I think we probably could have ordered piss up in the back seats of my car and everyone would have enjoyed it. Just actually, it's all getting out up there during those lockdowns was great. But a couple of people said that to me, and like, I've seen other people who have said, they were inspired, and a couple of people give them a kick up the arse to do stuff, and they've gone on and they're now working in Bitcoin. That's what I really love. Like, I myself organizer, I won't get any of that out of it. I really hope that the people that come get something out of it. I think that's like the best thing that can happen from the events like this. It's nice to have a few days really nice to have a few days holiday, but it's what comes after the event, from that event, that I hope will be sort of more impactful to Bitcoin in some way.
Yeah, meeting people in person just makes such a difference. Like you say, once you've looked in someone's eyes and you've had a conversation and you've spent 5 minutes with them, you can, for the most part, you can work them out and sort of see, is this someone I align with? Is this someone that I have anything in common with? Is this someone I'd want to speak to again? And you can learn in 5 minutes what you probably could, or certainly I couldn't learn from months of interaction on Twitter, because everyone has their persona. I'm a dyslexic fuck, so writing anything or reading anything, just like, it doesn't work in the same way. And like, for me to have a conversation by text, it's like not pointless, but it's close to pointless. I don't really understand anything about the person, and I don't really feel like I'm conveying what I want to convey. Whereas that little 5 minutes, like you said with MTC, it's like one of the nicest guys in Bitcoin. He's such a lovely bloke. Worked with him loads with 21ism and other bits and pieces. But online, you'd be like, fucking hell, this guy's a bit extreme. And one of my favourite things with MTC is to ask him, because he gets banned from Twitter all the time. Yeah. And it's like, what do they get you for today? It's like, I really don't know. Well, what did you do? Oh, well, all I did was say that Christine Lagarde is one of Satan's whores. And I was like, but that's actually completely reasonable. He's like, I know. Well, anyway, I'll be back in 7 days.
I love it. He doesn't stop him.
No.
It's like, no, I'm going to be me. I'm going to say exactly what I want. If you ban me, I'm just coming back. It's like fucking Bitcoin. Every 10 minutes, another one pops up. Like, there's no keeping that man down.
No, exactly.
And also, like, I know you had him on a pod recently. It was awesome to hear about border wallets. Like, he told me briefly, I think the same as you. He sent me details for it because he wanted to do a presentation at the thing and get some time. So it was like, yeah, of course you can. But I didn't look into it, and it was only like after hearing his talk and hearing other people talk, more so on your pod because I was running around a bit when he was doing his talk because I had the quiz straight after, I think. But yeah, like clever shit, man. That's a cool idea. I love these cool ideas coming from Bitcoiners. And it felt, I think it was very nice that and the timings all lined up, I imagine, as well. So it was a bit of coincidence, but it was really nice of him to unveil that and, get people involved and do the talk about it at the beach retreat. That was really good of him, I thought. I want to see more of that. I want to see more Bitcoiners rocking up to the beach retreat, right? Going, right, last year you all gave me this idea. This is what we're doing. And things like that to take off. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I think that's where these collaborations happen. The in-person stuff, and when you get to know someone, the ideas start spinning, and I think that is naturally how it happens, is when people are meeting up and they come up with ideas, because the conversation is just different. Twitter is someone puts a post or a meme or something, and someone throws a comment, and it's jokey and it's fun, and for the most part, not that much seems to come out of it. But you put a group of Bitcoiners together and you find out what the pain points are or what it is that you'd like to see within Bitcoin, and you have someone smart like an OpenOms lurking around, and he'll be like, yeah, well, what we could do, and that's how these things kick off.
And randomly, there's a couple of things there. Twitter is great, but there's no body language, no nuance. You're limited, so there's only ever so much you'll get going through it. But as a sort of an example of how the events developed, it was never meant to be any talks last year. It was, let's just get a few Bitcoiners away and go camping for a couple of nights. It was only OpenOms booking on and going, do you want me to do a talk about do something with Lightning? It was like, yeah, why not, mate? Might as well.
Yeah.
So technically, like, it's OpenOms' fault that we've now slowly merged more into the conference side of things and having talks and stuff like that. We'll never become a conference, but I think that one's probably on OpenOms then. But I like the way we do it as well. So we don't go, what talk should we have at the event? And then try and ask those people to come. I've genuinely, again, because I've only got so much time. There is no budget. It's more a case of we just see who books on.
Yeah.
Once we've got a number of them booked on, and during that process, someone will say, "I'm up for doing a talk" or whatever, and then trying to manage some kind of schedule. And I was kind of aware it almost got to the point of being a bit too much this year, because I really don't want it to be a conference. I'm really, really, really sold on that. It is not going to become a conference. I don't want more than 2 or 3 hours a day where you've got to be like sat listening to someone.
No.
And the talks at the night as well, I thought that's something we can improve on and get better. But yeah, the event will only be as good as the people who turn up, which is a reflection on Bitcoin, really.
The first year, I'll never forget, sat with OpenOms explaining how to do join market in the command line, and we're all sat in this. It was lovely weather outside. We're all crammed into this little room, and just slowly, as the time went on, people were just leaving one by one until it was me and I think 2 other people.
I think it was Tim hang around with a lot of questions last year, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, that's right. And then I'd made the mistake of bringing my laptop, so I was like doing it on the laptop and fucking around, and then someone was over my shoulder and they were like, "Yeah, no, you just need to type this." "Oh no. Oh no, you missed that." And I was like, "Listen, mate, I don't think you understand. I'm a fucking idiot. I'm not a developer like you are." So in the end, I just went, "Oh, fuck it. Just you sit on my laptop. You show me what you're doing." And so we were going through, and OpenOms is giving instructions. This guy's typing, and I was just standing there thinking, "Do you know what? I think I might go for a swim."
Funny enough, that's what I did. I think probably about an hour before that, mate. But no disrespect to OpenOms. It was very hot. That was a small room, and I was hungover like a bastard from the night before. So I think about an hour or so into it, I was like, I can't stay awake. I just got to go out. Which is one of the good things. At least we're not in that small room anymore. We're down in the in the marquee with a bit of airflow. But speaking about that one from last year, I swear I think OpenOms stole some money from me. Probably still owes me about £2 worth of Bitcoin from his Bitcoin ATM. I'm sure I put money in there.
22p from me as well, the fucker.
Oh, that was probably his little game, isn't it, man? just
Yeah.
rinse us all with his Bitcoin ATM. But
Yeah.
I'll forgive him of that and take it as a charge for him making the event better and starting us down this route of trying to get people to share their knowledge.
Yeah, no, it was great, and like you say, I like to have the talks outside, and people can dip in and out, and they can still be in the sunshine and sort of lean in and listen, and I think all of that is really, really good. So yeah, maybe next year, if there is a next year, I might do a little privacy thing or something like that. I think that would be a good one to do.
I think it should, and like I've said before, like, you know, you don't want to be doing work, so you don't really want to be doing pods down there, and stuff like that. But it's more a case of like trying to take advantage of having so many Bitcoiners in there. But you can do that by setting up podcasts with them over the coming year and things like that. So,
Exactly.
but yeah, I very much encourage you, if you've got knowledge on something and you don't have to be the cleverest person about it, as we saw with my Blockstream satellite presentation this year, you don't need to be the expert on it. And, you know, I'd love it if you were up for doing some privacy. I think that's one of the things I'd like to do next year, is get some more privacy stuff. But it all comes down to who's coming and who wants to do something. Like,
well, you had some of the best people you could ask for. You had Brother Rabbit there, one
Yeah,
of the wisest men I've come across. He's just relentless in all the Telegram groups. He knows so much, but I'm not sure if he'd want to do a talk or not. But absolutely fucking incredible, that guy.
He'd be a good one. I think you mentioned, who was it? Was it walking past him and recognised his voice?
Oh, really?
Well, no, I think you said in the pod, I don't know whether it was MT or someone or Antimus walked past him and said hello, and it's like, oh shit, I recognise your voice. You brother Rabbit.
Maybe it was Antimus. Probably Antimus.
I think it was actually. But randomly, that same thing has happened to me with Bitcoin Q&A at an event. Sat down talking to somebody, like, I fucking recognise your voice. I know who you are, mate. Because you got no idea what they look like, but their voices are so well. Wouldn't even necessarily say unique, but you just twig who it is straight away.
Yeah, when you've heard their voice enough times, you just know.
Yeah, when you've spent God knows how many hours listening to podcasts with them on and stuff like that, it's a weird one. But one of the other random things that we did this year with the event was, because we get the marquee donated by a friend of a friend up there, and we asked everyone to donate some sats for it this year, and we've raised about 1.3 million to give to the guy's daughter.
Pounds.
So I think that's about like, not pounds, but I wish. I wouldn't. I don't know if I'd give them, mate, to be honest. I can't do it paying off my mortgage. Just 1.3 million sats, but like that's that kind of thing, man. I like to do. I'd also like, so we pay the campsite, we pay the butcher to get some food, a baker to get some stuff. I want to like to get some ice cream delivered next year, the pizza guy. And next year, I want to make more effort. I think we kind of orange pilled a couple of them who didn't take payment in Bitcoin from us this year. I think next year I'd actually like to make the effort and say, look, I'll buy 300 sausages off you, but I'm going to pay you in Bitcoin, and try and do it that way. The inspiration for this event all came from the Bitcoin Bush Bash in Australia. And that's kind of been one of their things, is to try and inject money into the local economy as such. So that's something I'd like to do, and try and orange pill people at the same time, and hopefully get them on board as Bitcoiners. But we'll see how that happens. Who knows? We could have that little peninsula up in North Wales as like the El Salvador of the UK or Wales, and like turn it into like a Bitcoin peninsula or something. I don't think that's going to happen. But
well, I don't know, mate. There's a lot of money around there, and there's a lot of like boaty type of people and that kind of stuff.
Do you know what we could do? What we could do is, like, next year have like a 2-hour slot one afternoon where we make the effort before the event, and to local business owners or something can say, come down. We'll do a presentation on Bitcoin, and you can just chill and have a barbecue with loads of Bitcoiners. And something like that would probably orange pill more people than you trying to do some online media campaign or Twitter advertising and stuff like that. But and then they go away, they orange pill their family and other businesses in the area and things like that. So maybe that's an idea, to try and, what's it called? Outreach. Let's do some outreach work at the event next year and try and orange pill more locals.
Yeah, well, it's a bit like what Texas Slim is doing with this beef initiative. I don't know if you followed that at all, but getting ranchers involved and having that that sort of understanding where it's not just going out and shilling and just saying, oh, have you heard about Bitcoin? It's like, can I understand what you're doing as a rancher? Can I understand why you're doing it? And you very quickly, we speak to anyone, basically, you'll very quickly get to a point where they have a pain point and it's to do with money or government or banks, like basically everyone. And so, trying to create these relationships where then they get orange pilled and they're like, fuck, actually, I do need Bitcoin. This is amazing. And then so the ranchers will sell their meat to Bitcoiners for Bitcoin. So it helps them. And then the Bitcoiners get good quality grass-fed beef. And I think something like that, where if you could team up with a local butcher or whatever it is, people in that area, it could probably work pretty well.
That, to me, as a proposal to try and jumpstart a circular economy makes far more sense to me than what I feel has sort of seems to be getting more and more attention over the past year is retailers accepting Bitcoin or Lightning or Bitcoin as payments on the high street effectively. Bitcoin is getting incredibly excited about it, and I don't know, like, I would describe myself as possibly a bit more of a pessimist than an optimist, but I just don't see it. I just don't see, your day-to-day payments via Bitcoin I'm talking mainly in the UK now, so a developed country with really good financial infrastructure. I have little reason to spend my Bitcoin in my local spa or something like that. Now, if it was, buying honey or beef direct from the producer for Bitcoin, and I knew they were stacking those sats, not all of it, they got costs or whatever, but they were a Bitcoin and they saw the value in it and wanted to stack it, I'd much rather do that. I'd actually do that. I might even be persuaded to spend and replace, which I think is a bit of a is not a great thing, to be perfectly honest.
Why do you think that? Just because of the added KYC, or what's your?
It's just not natural. It's essentially, it's not natural. You're just doing it for the sake of doing it. If I'm going to send someone a Bitcoin and then immediately buy that Bitcoin back, you have got the issues of, capital gains and KYC and various other things. But I think it harks back a bit to the Bitcoin Cash. Spend it, replace it, spend it. I don't see Bitcoin like that. Bitcoin to me is saving. I save whatever I can afford in Bitcoin. I have no inclination to or motivation to want to spend my Bitcoin unless it's with another Bitcoiner and is supporting the
I think
economy.
that's the key.
If it's just your local shop, as an example, I literally have a local shop. Like, I won't say it's near. I could go there on a daily and spend Lightning, and I don't. And if I did, I'd be doing it for the lols, the experience, the fun, but I wouldn't really be pushing any kind of circular economy whatsoever. And I think that's where I feel a bit pessimistic, is it's the retail side of accepting Bitcoin payments is being pushed by Bitcoiners. And I don't think that's the key to success. And I think we've seen in the early days of Bitcoin, Roger Ver doing that. And a lot of merchants ended up having a bad experience and walking away from it. Thankfully, we've got Lightning, so we don't have those 10-minute block times. We don't have the high fees. So we actually have a tool now that merchants can use to accept instant payments. But until their customers ask them, and I mean a fair number of their customers ask them to be able to pay in Bitcoin, I don't see merchants adopting it on any kind of scale. And until it's on a scale, then there's demand for kind of scale, then it's nice. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think it really starts a circular economy or anything like that. I'd much rather pay Bitcoiners for product or service.
I sort of agree with you, to be honest, because if it's just a sort of big faceless corporation or shop where the majority of it they're just going to convert on the back end anyway, straight back to fiat slave notes anyway, then it's kind of a bit gimmicky to me. It's fine, it's cool, and it probably saves them some fees, and eventually I can see that making a difference, and they'll be like, oh, hold on, we're not paying all these processing fees, this is maybe better. But it doesn't excite me. But if you have someone like a rancher or someone who's a small business owner who generally get fucked by the government, like if you're a small business owner, life is a lot harder for you than it is for these big corporations. And, over the last couple of years, that a lot of them have just been decimated. and they're just average people who just get fucked all the time. If someone like that understands, well, there's a value to something that acts like cash that can't be taken, that if they want can be off the books, and that over time keeps their purchasing power, like they're not just getting raped all the time, then that sort of person, if they understand that, then I'm like, actually, I'd quite like you to join our ranks because you're a good person, you understand these things, and you're probably going to hold. So with them, I will make the effort and I will pay in Bitcoin. And the other thing is I keep almost every penny in Bitcoin anyway. So if I can pay, often I need to pay in Bitcoin. And so like, photographer the other day, I paid them in Bitcoin. I orange pilled them and they got it and they were cool. But if I could go to Tesco and they've got like fucking BitPay or something on the back end and they're just going to convert it, I'd just be like, absolutely not. Why am I going to go and do that? Because getting KYC free sats is not the easiest thing in the world in the UK. So I put a higher value than spot price on them anyway. So the spend and replace thing doesn't really work for me. So I would still use slave notes over the Bitcoin in those situations. But I think really what needs to be hit on, and what I'm seeing with this beef initiative and what could potentially happen like in that peninsula, is that these smaller businesses understand it and they get onboarded, and then it is like the start of this circular economy, which is really, really powerful for many reasons, one of them being that it makes it more and more difficult to actually control this thing. That's such a big theme of this show and something that I push all the time. In fact, actually, the first time when I was away at the Bitcoin Beach Retreat, I was chatting away. I can't remember the guy's name. Really nice guy, and it was the first time I'd smoked a joint in fucking like over a year, and I was high as a kite, getting a bit paranoid. And this guy was just a really nice guy, like nothing against the guy, but he was starting talking about, I think KYC is a good idea. And, because how else are you going to stop the criminals and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm having this conversation with him. I think he'd said, oh, yeah, I know of the podcast. And I was thinking, well, you fucking obviously don't, because you would have heard me, my thoughts on this. Then I thought, well, hold on. I reckon this bloke might be a Fed. What if he is trying to convince me to use KYC and that no KYC is bad, the control is good, and he's trying to mind fuck me? And then I was like, right, I'm going to Jedi mind fuck him back and make him understand, even though he is an undercover police, that he's wrong. But I'm not going to let him know that I know that he's undercover. So I had this fucking weird conversation with this guy. This sort of two conversations were going on in my head at the same time. It was fucking weird.
I want to know who that is.
I can't remember his name now. He was lovely, like nice guy, but and I think some of it was just me being high as a kite.
Probably didn't help.
Yeah, he probably had just mentioned it once and I'd got it in my head and got super paranoid. But yeah, so I was trying to get him to change his mind and actually go against the police. So I don't know how that worked, or whether he was undercover or whether I was just high as a kite. Don't know.
And then, like, the whole KYC, like, I'm not an advocate of KYC by any stretch of the imagination, even though I work for an exchange. I think I saw a tweet earlier today. Basically, it's just someone absolutely slating KYC. There's no use to it at all. And like, I'm 95% on board with them. But the conversations never seem to come up amongst Bitcoiners. There's a lot of examples KYC has actually saved people a lot of money. And this also explains why the banks are so shitty when you're trying to send money to an exchange, is because they're dealing with all the scams. Like, there are so many little, Janine next door has been ripped off. Like, when Bitcoin was the tool that was used to do it, we and various exchanges will have safeguarding. You'll speak to someone who's opened a support ticket, and you'll ask them, what you're doing and so on and so forth, and you'll realize they're being scammed. And it's only through various things that have popped up in the KYC or AML checks that has made you go, is this person being scammed? That's the only benefit I can find out of KYC stuff, is that it puts some kind of barriers in there to check that your grandma isn't being scammed. And as much as we don't want to admit it, there's a shitload of it going on. Like there's so many scams going on. So that's not a justification of KYC. There's other ways of achieving that. But I think it's important to kind of like recognize that it does save some people some money.
Sure, yeah, and there are a lot of scams that go on because once it's sent, you can't fucking get it back. So it's a useful tool for that. My view on it is like it causes way, way, way more harm than good, and puts a lot more people at risk than they would be without. But at the same time, I understand that a lot of people, that is the way that they're going to come in because that's how they feel comfortable. What I try and do with this show is just say, look, your best bet is to buy some in cash off another Bitcoiner. If you're onboarding someone, then sell them a bit for cash. Just like that's your duty as a Bitcoiner, is sell them a little, 25 quid, 50 quid, 100 quid, whatever, get them onboarded and get them playing around and using it rather than straight to an exchange in an ideal world and try and build this circular economy. But, I am realistic and understand that, the majority of people aren't going to do that. They're going to come in through KYC services. I did it. I came in through KYC services at the beginning because the person shilling it to me was like, yeah, go onto this exchange and buy. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's what I do. It's not even a thought. It's not even something that crossed my mind that, oh, maybe this would be better to approach it in a different way. And it's only through time and getting exposed to other Bitcoiners and starting to understand what this thing's all about that you're like, oh, maybe I'd be best not doing it. But you still have to take that first step. And not until you own some Bitcoin do you actually bother to do any research, really, because you're like, you have skin in the game now. So there is no perfect way for everyone to come in, and there will always be exchanges. As long as there is still a government and legacy systems, there will always be KYC. So I think it's just our duty as Bitcoiners is to like explain to people, here's the trade-offs. That's what I do with people now. Like I've had people who have come to me and they said, I want to put sometimes like a fair whack of money in, and I'll go through the trade-offs with them. And for some people, they're like, well, I actually want to do, I want to pay my taxes. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to buy something with it in the future. I don't feel comfortable holding it, whatever it is. And I'm like, well, I'm not sure this thing's for you, but if you have to, then you could use an exchange. But other people are like, well, I thought this was cash. And I'm like, well, it's only cash if you use it like cash. And if you get it no KYC and no one knows you have it. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they're like, oh, well, that's what I want. How do I do that? So everyone's different and there's always going to be those options. I don't think it's right to attack people on either side of it. It's a personal choice, and that's how it's always got to be. Like, stop. I don't like when people force something down someone else's throat. If someone says to me, oh, well, I really want to use Coinbase, I'm like, that's fine. You can do that. I'm not going to force you not to. Like, I'd be a hypocrite forcing you to do anything, because this whole thing is about freedom. I'm just advising you. It's not what I would do.
And it's the regs. At the end of the day, going back a couple of years, we had some leeway where you could sell someone, up to £500 a day worth of corn, and to the average Joe, that's more than enough to stack KYC free corn. So it's all on the governments and the regulators being absolute cocks and overdoing it. And we all know the effectiveness to stop money laundering of KYC. It's like sub 1% or something.
Yeah.
It is all a waste of time. But yeah, the biggest threat to me is the honeypot of data that exchanges have got on me. Plus the trying to think what the best way of describing it is, but the overzealousness of exchanges to comply so they don't get into trouble means that they go beyond what they're required to do. And the best example of this, I think, is Coinbase. I got the email from them, I think last year or something like that, saying, over the previous financial year, you've sent, received, or traded more than £5,000 worth of cryptocurrencies, as they put it, and we've sent your details to HMRC. And you're like, what the fuck?
Quality.
So HMRC haven't asked you for my details. I haven't crossed over anything as far as HMRC is concerned, but you've gone and told them. You could have kept all the data on me if they ever inquired about me. You didn't do that. You put a package together and you sent it to them. It's
Amazing.
absolutely disgraceful. It's utterly disgraceful that they do that. And that's not you like rocking up to Coinbase and buying $5,000 in corn and pulling it off. That's $5,000 of cumulative trading. So you could just put £100 on there and buy and sell, buy, sell, buy, sell Bitcoin enough times to get over $5,000. The next thing you know, you are on the HMRC database as being a Bitcoiner.
At least they're reasonable, though, HMRC.
Yeah, yeah, lovely bunch. Like, I haven't had much interaction with them, to be honest, mate. I try to keep my head below that parapet. But yeah, it could always happen. Who knows? Like, was it the States just employed like 87,000 IRS agents? If we see like 10, 20,000 HMRC inspectors being taken on, particularly if they're being armed like the Americans, then we know we're fucked. Let's hope they're not.
Yeah.
So they should have a baton or something.
Yeah, I mean, that does seem that's the way it's going to go. Going back to the circular economy stuff, it's like each to their own. If you want to use exchange, fine. But really, the circular economy thing excites me because, in theory, you can have a miner or two in a community. You can have producers of meat or fruit or veg or whatever it is people need. And you can have an economy start to grow where people are moving this Bitcoin and product around, and it is truly outside the system. Like, it's truly not linked at all if it's done properly. And if people are educated from the start that this isn't just come in, buy, oh, it's going to £1 million, we go and buy a fucking Lambo. If it's, well, this is just a separate system. And if you're a bit sick of the system, if you're a bit sick of getting fucked over and you don't really trust the fuckers who are making the decisions, maybe give this a go. Maybe you don't have to put all your money into it. Maybe you can just say, well, yeah, 5% of my inventory of meat, I'll sell that to Bitcoiners. And then, yeah, okay, when someone comes in and they want to buy with Bitcoin, I'll take that. And maybe I don't even keep all of it. Maybe I only keep 2% of it. And over time that goes up. And they're like, oh, this thing's all right, you know. Just seeing that slowly, like, grassroots thing happen, I think that's a way more natural thing. You're not then going to have people going, fuck, I've chucked 10 grand in and oh, now it's only worth 2 and oh, I've lost my life savings. It's like, oh, well, I sold a few sausages and, you know, I've got a bit of Bitcoin and I'll see what happens.
And on that one is like, I know a merchant who accepts Lightning payments and sells Bitcoin. They've had the option to, as part of Fast Bitcoin service, to stack their commissions or to not convert any payments of product into fiat. And they've never done that. You know, most of these businesses or accountants will be advising them, no, just insta sell. It's a lot easier for your accountant and so on and so forth. And what this merchant got in touch with me about 2 months ago, fair play, he obviously spotted a dip, and I've been talking to him for like 2 years now. Just keep dropping, you know, and he's never seen my opinion change. I'm keep telling I'm still here. You know, he put a fairly considerable amount of money into Bitcoin a couple of months ago. Way more than he ever would have stacked via commissions or selling products or service to the few Bitcoiners.
What's his name and address?
I'll DM you, mate.
Brilliant, thank you.
But again, it's like you're trying to advise them where to go and things like that. It's like, yeah, just so you know, if you go here, you're going to get reported to HMRC. If you go here, it might be a bit complicated. But I think that's my thing with the circular economy is that if they're not a part of that, then they're just insta dumping those sats on the market. So every time you go and buy something, you're just putting sell pressure on Bitcoin. None of them, I feel quite confident in saying that none of them are keeping the sats, because I know that the few who are there will be some of them that they won't make me wrong. The absolute majority will, for accountants and accounting reasons, and for not necessarily being a Bitcoiner, will sell that stack straight away. And I do wonder that once the hype has died down, where they got to train their staff on how to accept these payments and so on and so forth, where you get one come in a month if you're lucky, what's the point? There's just no, you know, I'm being mercenary as a merchant here now. You do anything for a reason. You're a business, you've got to run efficiently. And I just don't think, particularly in the UK, we're there yet, but I think it can be a bit of a test bed for things, because when you go into other countries like El Salvador, or perhaps the Central African Republic, I think it becomes a different story, Bitcoins as payments or the payment network.
It does. Yeah, and it depends how it's implemented as well. It's like if I was a store and I'm paying, 2% or whatever it is that they're paying to MasterCard, Visa, and I think, 3 or 4% on some of the credit cards and stuff. If someone's using Lightning and I'm not being charged anything, that's quite attractive if the volume's big enough. If it's one person a month, it's like, so fucking what? One person a month buys a bag of crisps and, I save 2% on 50p. Well, I don't care. So that's not going to bother them. But if you have massive volume and they're not being charged those fees and they know it's instant settlement, and if the people who are going in there and they're using Lightning, if you can do that in a way that's actually private, if you could just go with any wallet and you can pay and you can have some KYC free sats and you can pay for whatever shopping you want, well, suddenly that person has privacy, where it's becoming more and more difficult to do it with cash. In a lot of places, they just don't accept cash. They make it very, very difficult, and you can only see that trend continuing. So, I would quite like to see it, just even if it's only that reason, even if it's only these shops can save a few percent, and if they've got a big turnover, well, actually, it could be quite a decent amount of money. It could make quite a big difference to their lives, and potentially could bring the costs for the person walking in there, could bring the cost down, and that person gets privacy if cash gets eradicated or phased out. So long term, it could be very good, but I do agree that at the moment it's kind of, I'm not that bothered.
Long term makes absolute sense, but is there finality when you're a merchant who accepts Bitcoin payments and does instant conversion? I'd say there isn't, because you've got a middleman somewhere
if you do the conversion,
facilitating that. But that's most of them. It is going back to that. It's only the guys selling beef or honey for Bitcoin that are not converting. Every other general business will be instantly converting. There'll be a charge associated with that because no one's going to offer them that service if there's no money in it for them. So that could be 1% or 2%. And then once you've instant converted, there's no finality of the money in your bank account. It's probably on the exchange or the middleman that you use to convert it. And at some point, you're going to pull that off. It might be once you've accumulated like £100, which might take 2 months. So it could actually take you longer to get your money if you're not holding it as what we know works and that is final, which is as corn. Then it isn't quite as final. But yeah, it's one of those things. That's just me being Mr. Pessimistic, and I think also having seen volumes of going through our merchants at Fast Bitcoins, where people could buy Bitcoin and they could use Bitcoin to spend via the Lightning Network on the same terminal, and the ratio difference between those two is I wouldn't even tell you it, because there is no ratio. It's all buying. Like there's no one spending. So I think having seen some of that, like inside, like the reality of what volumes a merchant will see, the amount they'll take in spending is just beyond insignificant to the amount of people that would buy Bitcoin off them if they were selling it. Like utterly insignificant. So yeah, it's a shame. But I'm still up for, all I want to do is get rid of my cuck bucks at the shop. And I will continue to do that until, I think that's it. So that's the problem. What's the solution? The solution needs to be, they need to encourage me to spend my sats more, which means them probably giving me a discount, which means them taking a bit of a hit, but they're willing to do that because they want to stack those sats. So you're talking about everyone being aware of the value of sats, it being a kind of accepted thing, and we're not there yet. And I think I was reading Digital Gold by Nathaniel something or other recently, and it talks about Wences Carreras, the Zappo founder, the really early orange pilled a lot of Silicon Valley, and this has gone back into like 2014. Like even he's saying back then is like, I don't think the payment side of Bitcoin is going to take off until we've got like 1 billion users. I don't think we've got 1 billion users yet, and I'm kind of wouldn't disagree with what he's saying. It's that tipping point, isn't it? We need to get over a tipping point. And I think that may be the solution. So everyone, as you were, carry on what you're doing, keep shilling Bitcoin, number go up, Lambos, Moon, yeah. Let's keep bringing them all in. We'll lose some of them when they lose their shirt and it inevitably takes a dump, but enough will hang on. And I think that cycle is just set to keep on repeating, mate. That's my positive thought for the day.
Yeah. No, I'd rather that. Like, I think it's important to be realistic about where we actually are, so that we can see where we're going. I think the hype is fine, but it's nice to just be realistic about these things. And you're right. I don't think we're anywhere near 1 billion users. I'd be surprised if I don't know the numbers. Maybe 10 million people use it. And do they really use it, or if they just bought and they've held on an exchange? I mean, how many real users are there who are running a node and actually messing around with their wallet and have any idea what they're doing? It's not many, but I think that's why, and we'll probably close out on this because otherwise I'll waffle for the rest of the day. But I think maybe we could try in that little peninsula, maybe we should start thinking about just something grassroots. If it is just getting a butcher to understand and finding out where their pain points are and how Bitcoin might be able to help their business, if we start with that, then maybe it can spread. And that's a much, much better way of doing things.
Sell it to them on you. You can keep this off the books, Mr. Butcher.
Exactly. Yeah.
That may be like the biggest things for Orange Pill. A lot of them. It's like, I got no cash, but if you want this totally off the books, might be of interest to some of them as a way to stack anonymously as well, because obviously that's what they're doing. They're not trying to avoid paying tax or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. Here you are. Exactly. Yeah. Here you are, Mr. Butcher. Here's Samurai Wallet. Have this on your phone. Let me send you. Set the butcher up with a nice little pay in. Off we go.
That's my my task for next year then.
I'll
try and
and
find
get involved.
them. Do it, man. Do it. I think that would be a good slow progression. Always getting a little bit better and doing something different, man. So maybe that'll be one of our things. I'm going to go and look at a map at how big that peninsula is.
Yeah.
what's the feasibility of this? But yeah, good idea. Worth having to think about, isn't it?
All right, mate. Well, good to chat to you. Thanks for coming on. And I would say to anyone listening to this, make sure to go and check out Dragon's shitty website, and also to find out more about the next year's event. So obviously you haven't put the dates, but I really do recommend to anyone listening to check it out. I really think it is the best event that I've ever been to in Bitcoin. I will continue to go, and yeah, you really knocked it out of the park, mate. So thanks for all your work that you're doing with that. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for doing what you're doing, man. I think like those of us who can't code, we got to find what we can do. If we want to, we don't have to, obviously, but if you want to contribute to Bitcoin, find what your skills are and do that. Mine's events. That's got nothing to do with Bitcoin as such. You know, you do your thing and everyone does that. Don't have to be able to use command line to be able to contribute and push and help Bitcoin along in some way. So yeah, thank you for coming again, mate. I appreciate your support.
All right, mate. We'll speak soon.
Take care, Max. Ta-da.
Thanks for listening, and thank you for supporting the show. Every time you share episodes with friends or family, it really does help. Every time you stream sats or send boost on Fountain or Breeze, it really excites me. It's really cool to see the support, see the messages, and know that what I'm putting out there is reaching people. So thank you so much for that. Everyone who's been giving me feedback on Ungovernable Misfits is also appreciated. And if you haven't checked it out already, go to ungovernablemisfits.com. Make sure to tune in for the Pleb Mining Month. It is starting at the beginning of September, and we are going to be releasing content every single day of the month. We're also going to be having prizes, including S9s, fan shrouds, Foundation devices, passports, and much, much more. Anyone who has questions, they can reach out. The best thing to do is go to Breeze or Fountain and send a boost. Any of the boosts that we get are not going into my pocket. They are all going to pay for the shipping and for all the other costs of putting on this mining month. We'll get to those first, but if you haven't got any sats to spare, do not fear. You can also reach out on Telegram or Twitter or any other communication channel you have me on, and we will try to get to all the questions. Our Telegram group now has over 30 of the plebiest miners out there. They are absolutely incredible, and they are dying to help other people get on board and really decentralize this network. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.